everyone. I'm Kevin Nelson, and here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican. Well, even though it's summer, Pope Francis has a packed schedule in the works. On July 8th, Pope will visit Lampedusa, where 7 people drowned in mid-June trying to stay afloat on a large tuna cage. They had been part of a group of nearly 100 immigrants who were jammed onto an inflatable raft sailing from North Africa. The Pope, while there, will greet refugees and immigrants, pray for those who've lost their lives at sea, and call for greater solidarity. He will also celebrate an open-air mass. The Vatican has also announced that there will be no weekly general audience for all of July and August. However, the Pope will still recite the midday Angelus every Sunday. On July 14th, he'll lead the Angelus in Castel Gandolfo. Also, the Pope will continue the tradition of celebrating Mass on the Feast of the Assumption, August 15th, at St. Thomas Church. He'll recite the Angelus with visitors gathered outside the villa. There will be no private or special audiences between July 7th and September 1st, and his early morning Masses with Vatican employees will be suspended during that period. And, of course, he'll be traveling to Brazil July 22nd to the 28th for World Youth Day in Rio de Janeiro. More news now from the Vatican. Pope Francis placed the pallium, a white woolen stole, on the shoulders of the newest archbishops on June 29th, the feast of Saints Peter and Paul. Rome Reports takes a look at this special ceremony.
Wearing their red vestments, a total of 34 metropolitan archbishops who were named over the last year received the so-called pallium garment in St. Peter's Basilica. As marked by tradition, the Pope imposed the white wool-made vestment on each one of them. The Pope said it should remind them of their responsibility to spread the gospel and to serve.
E non solo il Vescovo di Roma, tutti voi, nuovi archivescovi e vescovi, avete lo stesso compito: lasciarsi consumare per il Vangelo, farsi tutto a tutti. Il compito di non risparmiare, uscire di sé al servizio.
The pallium ceremony is traditionally celebrated on the feast day of St. Peter and St. Paul. It's a symbol of being in communion with the Holy See. The Pope described the diversity of the Church as a mosaic designed by God, and that, he said, should be remembered when there are differences or tensions.
E questo deve spingere a superare sempre ogni conflitto che ferisce il corpo della Chiesa. Uniti nelle differenze. Non c'è un'altra strada cattolica per unirsi. Questo è lo spirito cattolico, lo spirito cristiano.
Among the 34 archbishops who received the pallium was the head of the church in Buenos Aires, Mario Aurelio Poli, who took over the post recently held by Pope Francis. Also on the list was Joseph Cordileone from the American city of San Francisco in California. From Indianapolis, there was Archbishop Joseph William Tobin. The Mexican Archbishop of the industrial city of Monterrey, Rogelio Cabrera Lopez, was also there. The Pope helped out the Archbishop of Sucre in Bolivia, Jesus Juarez Parraga, by standing up to impose the pallium so the Archbishop wouldn't kneel.
Looking out news from around the country, the U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to hear a buffer zone lawsuit that challenges lower court rulings that the Massachusetts buffer zone law is constitutional. That law prohibits most people, including those offering alternatives to abortion, from going closer than 35 feet to entrances, exits, and driveways of abortion facilities. The 7 plaintiffs who brought the lawsuit to the Supreme Court include 2 Worcester, Massachusetts sidewalk counselors. Michael DePrimo, one of the plaintiffs' attorneys, said he expects the court to hear oral arguments in the case in December or January and then rule on it next spring. Back to the Vatican now. Pope Francis will publish his first encyclical on July 5th, finishing up a document which was started by his predecessor. Rome Reports has more on this announcement.
The Vatican announced that the first encyclical of Pope Francis will be titled Lumen Fidei, which translates to the light of faith. The encyclical was started by Benedict XVI back when he was still Pope. Francis finished it, describing it as a, quote, strong text. It will be presented on July 5th by Canadian Cardinal Marc Ouellet and Archbishops Gerhard Müller and Rino Fisichella. Encyclicals are open letters where pontiffs write a religious and social message to all people of goodwill. John Paul II published a total of 14, and Benedict XVI, 3. Usually, a pope's first encyclical outlines the priorities of his pontificate, but that won't necessarily be the case with this one, since a good portion of the document was already written by Benedict XVI when it was received by Pope Francis.
And finally in the news, the final rules for the mandate requiring employers provide contraceptive coverage was issued June 28th by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. In a statement, New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan, president of the USCCB, said the ruling is complex and that the bishops will provide a more complete statement on the rules once they have analyzed them. The HHS final ruling updates proposed rules the department had issued in February and left open for comment through April. It was originally supposed to take effect August 1st. However, in June, the government extended its safe harbor period to January 1st, 2014. The HHS contraceptive mandate, part of the Affordable Care Act, will require most employers to provide coverage of contraceptives, sterilization, and some abortion-inducing drugs free of charge. That is all the information we have for you this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV Network.